Welcome to the Breaking Reality Podcast, bringing news and truth to the people.
Our first story for today, starting off kind of easy, we're going to talk about the Three Unwise Men. So yesterday, Stephen Miller, JD Vance, and Pete Hegseth decided they were going to go for a stroll through Union Station yesterday, along with their army trolling around on all sides of them. When they did so, they were met with some loud and long booing, people telling Vance to go play with a couch, but another term was used apart from play with, and other phrases being shouted. Though it seems as if they didn't like that so much, as the three unwise men decided to go to a back room somewhere within Union Station to hold a mini press conference. And during this time, we see and hear Stephen Miller spew some just ridiculous shit. Okay, one of the first things he says is about the protesters outside that is around the back room and who met them as they walked in. So Stephen Miller ends up calling them 90-year-old stupid white hippies and says that they need to go home and take a nap. Now, when we look at other clips of those who were outside the area at that time and we see the individuals who are calmly talking / protesting to officers outside, those individuals, they were absolutely not in their 90s. They couldn't have even been considered middle age. Okay, they were about my age, okay, and I'm in my 30s, right? So if anybody needs to go home and take a fucking nap, it's Stephen Miller, okay? Now, he didn't shut up there, though. He decided to open his mouth again. And so he says, quote, "And the voices that you hear out there, those crazy communists, they have no roots. They have no connection to the city. They have no families that are raised in the city. They have no one they are sending to the school in this city. They have no jobs in this city. They have no connections to this community at all. They're the ones who have been advocating for the 1%, the criminals, the killers, the rapists, the drug dealers. And I am glad they're here today because me, Pete, and the vice president are all going to leave here and inspired by them, talking about the protesters going on outside, we're going to add thousands more resources to this city to get the criminals and the gate members out of here," unquote. Now, before I go any further, if you've seen the clip, okay, maybe you haven't seen the clip, but when Miller says crazy communists and add thousands more, Hegseth, who was standing right beside him a little bit off to the left, smiled so big and seemed to have had a nice hearty chuckle. Okay, so Hegseth, agrees with everybody outside being communist and adding thousands more resources to the city. So Miller went absolutely apeshit during this mini conference as he was surrounded by the other two unwise men and their mini Gestapo. The first half of his rant was saying that the individuals outside of that room don't have any connection to the city. First off, Miller, you have about as much connection to the city as those people who are standing up for their rights and survival due to y'all's unwise men's threat to the United States, whether they live in DC or not. Union Station is a fucking train depot, you goddamn idiot, not a fucking housing development. Okay, secondly, every single citizen of the United States has a connection to DC due to it being the capital of our city. So, yes, Miller, they do have a connection, even if it's only that one, you dumbass Nazi. I can't deal with these fucking people. Okay, we're back. Sorry about that. I had to take a break due to how emotional I ended up getting there. So, one final thing regarding the three unwise men. We should realize that Trump is in a bad place medically. In the event that Trump passes before the end of his term, Vance is the one who's going to take over. When Vance isn't taking a vacation, he's aiding in despicable policies and spending time with the other two stooges. So, if that time comes, Miller is likely to take a higher position. All right, we already knew that our government bends to Israel, and the State Department ended up making another move that proves this to us. According to the Washington Post, a now former top media relations official for the State Department's Bureau of Near East Affairs, one who was responsible for drafting the administration's talking points about the policies towards Israel and Gaza, was fired on Monday over a statement that they made for the administration. Now, this person, I'm going to butcher their name, Shahid Gorishi, ended up recommended expressing condolences for the murdered journalist in Gaza and drafted a statement equating to what is happening in Gaza as ethnic cleansing, which we all know that's what is actually happening. The Israeli regime had even said so itself. Now, when Shahid drafted the statement and included the phrase, quote, "We mourn the loss of the journalist and express condolences to their families," unquote, the higher ups in the department said that the comment was unnecessary, including by individuals at the Jerusalem U.S. Embassy. So let me get this straight. Showing the world that the leadership within the United States has compassion to the destruction that's happening around the world, that's unnecessary. Oh, that's right, because Israel spoke up and we're not an independent nation. We now have a president that bows and caters to fascist dictators because that's what he emulates and that's who his heroes are. Here's a statement by Senator Chris Hollen who agrees, quote, "If you needed more evidence, Donald Trump has totally contracted out the U.S. policy in the Middle East to Netanyahu, look no further. It's now apparently a fireable offense to say America opposes forced displacement of Palestinian civilians and regrets the killings of journalists. Shameful," unquote. Veteran labor organizer Chuck Idelson says, quote, "There are really no words left for the debasement of U.S. policy in supporting, arming, enabling, and justifying Israel's genocide and ethnic cleansing. It rivals every past horror in U.S. policy. No wonder Trump wants to whitewash our nation's history as he recreates every crime," unquote. Boom, right there, perfect, as he recreates every crime. Remember what I said just a moment ago? He emulates the fascist dictators because that's who his heroes are. So Shahid had actually been working for the Trump administration since Trump's inauguration, and they'd never had an issue with the language he had recommended before. Okay, Shahid, I'm not sure if you've been paying attention to more than the genocide by Israel to the Palestinians, which I'm not saying that's not important. It absolutely is. But the rhetoric and moves that the US administration's been spewing for a good few months now should have been a good indication they wouldn't have approved of what you had wrote. Now, without addressing the specifics, Deputy State Department spokesman Tommy Pigott said in a statement that the agency, quote, "has zero tolerance for employees who commit misconduct by leaking or otherwise disclosing confidential, deliberative emails or information. Federal employees should never put their personal political ideologies ahead of the duly elected president's agenda," unquote. These types of moves continue to showcase that loyalty tests do still happen within the administration, which hopefully we all still knew. The administration this week also ended up revoking security clearances for 37 current and former national security officials, including many who had signed a critical letter of Trump back in 2019. So, I mean, the bullshit uh, uh, excuse of or the lie of not using one's political placement to go after others. See, I'm still so aggravated. I can't think of the right term. Um, Political attacks using the federal judiciary. This is it's continuing to happen. People are losing their jobs that they've had their jobs for years, for decades, because they simply say something that is just a recommendation. And maybe even something that they've said before, like here, Shahid. He said this stuff before and there's never been an issue. But now all of a sudden, we have Israel speaking up and, oh, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, yes, Netanyahu. Absolutely, Netanyahu. Fucking idiots.
I want to make a quick interjection here before moving on to the next story. You may be seeing news about a ceasefire with Hamas and Israel. Uh, However, something you may not be hearing is that they've also began their assault in Gaza. Today, they attacked one specific area of the Gaza Strip 3 times. The IDF and Netanyahu's Israel regime are heading for a Holocaust. Okay, we're not there yet, but when there's an Israeli military leader saying they need to kill 50 Palestinians for every Israeli, it's not going to take long. Okay. At this point, Israel has committed over 50 October 7th attacks. Plus, they're planning to build settlements on the West Bank, dividing the enclave. Okay. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't. If you've been on our other pages that I'm a part of, you'll recognize this name. The next thing we're going to talk about is Alina Habba. Now, if you don't know, Alina Habba was Trump's personal attorney. She was then placed as the New Jersey interim attorney general, or attorney, excuse me. She was then removed by federal judges in July and replaced with a, real prosecutor. However, Bondi decided that she would overrule the judges. She ended up firing the prosecutors that the federal judges placed and renamed Habba as the acting attorney. And this action ended up causing lawsuits to be placed against her and her quote unquote team. Now, possible good news is that today a federal judge has disqualified her. This means that she's no longer the sitting New Jersey attorney, and that Judge Matthew Bran stated that Habba's appointment was done, quote, through a novel series of legal and personnel moves, unquote, which were not legally valid. We all knew this, but what is actually legal that our administration does? Now, his opinion, in the judge's opinion, he states, quote, the court concludes that Ms. Habba has exercised the functions and duties of the office of the U.S. Attorney for the District of New Jersey without lawful authority since July 1st, 2025. Her actions since that point may be declared void, unquote. But he does continue, quote, she is not currently qualified to exercise the functions and duties of the office in an acting capacity. She must be disqualified from participating in any ongoing cases, including Mr. Pina's and those of defendants Julian Garrod Jr. and Julian Garrod III, unquote, which means that she's not able to participate actively in any of her cases. Now, unfortunately, Braun did stay his decision, which allows the Trump administration to appeal before it takes effect, and of course, they will. Now, other U.S. attorneys beyond Habba are serving in similar circumstances. In July, John Sarcone, who's now serving as the U.S. attorney in the Northern District of New York, he failed to receive a indefinite extension of his interim status from federal judges, and so he is also one of the individuals that um, will end up having a similar issue that Habba is now in. Any individual who holds a United States visa will be undergoing a review by the Trump administration. Today, Thursday, the administration said that they'll be reviewing the more than 55 million individuals who hold a valid U.S. visa for any violation that could lead to deportation. The State Department said that all U.S. visa holders, which can include tourists from many countries, are subject to, quote, continuous vetting, unquote, with an eye toward any indication that they could be ineligible for permission to enter or stay in the United States. Now, the issue here is that with our racist and supremacy-based administration, that could literally be any violation because we have people in concentration camps who have no criminal background. When the vice president goes overseas, people are being demanded to show their social media. When we look at the language used by the State Department now, even those who are approved could eventually have their permission revoked. According to the State Department, they have revoked more than 6,000 student visas within the last month, and recently over 30 security clearances for individuals within our own country.
If you have any questions, comments, or concerns about this episode, the host, or the podcast, don't hesitate to reach out at breakingreality@mail.com.